All of our narratives are created for the purpose of entertainment. I recall this forum from a few years ago when I recommended it to a friend who was experiencing marital infidelity. I was unaware that I would be seeking advice from this forum in the near future. Life has presented me with a significant challenge, and I find myself here seeking guidance. Please forgive me if my writing is not clear. I am currently experiencing a state of shock and overwhelming pain, which makes it challenging for me to express myself without making spelling and grammar mistakes. I have recently discovered that my wife is having an affair, which has made matters worse. The other person involved is my own brother. He was not just a brother but also my best friend and the best man at our wedding. This betrayal has unleashed a roller coaster of emotions within me. My emotions are a tumult of rage and sadness. I am seething with rage at both of them for this betrayal. I am also feeling incredibly sad and depressed because the reality I thought I knew is now shattered. I am 42 years old, my wife is 39, and my brother is 50. We have been married for 16 years and together for 18. She was quite young when we married, but she has always been mature beyond her years. My wife is more mature than her age. We have 4 wonderful children, 3 sons and a daughter. While this may not be crucial, it is worth noting that my brother has been single for 2 years, having experienced 4 divorces by the age of 50. Technically, he is 48. I discovered the affair purely by chance a few hours ago. I observed them at the shopping mall holding hands and kissing. They did not notice me or my eldest son. My son and I were present at the scene, which was traumatic for both of us. He was about to confront them, but I intervened. We went for a drive and shared our feelings, crying together. I was the primary source of tears, while my son was filled with anger. We have now returned home and I have asked him to remain silent and not take any action until his mother and I have had a chance to discuss the matter. He was initially reluctant to discuss the matter further, but eventually agreed to remain silent until his mother and I had a chance to speak. I am currently experiencing a conflict of emotions regarding the best course of action. On the one hand, I feel compelled to investigate further and uncover any additional information about the affair. I am curious to know how long it has been going on and gather any other details that could be used to minimize the chances of her trickling the truth. On the other hand, I am aware that my actions could potentially lead to further complications and I am therefore reluctant to take any immediate action. One part of me is eager to confront her as soon as she returns home. She will undoubtedly sense that something is amiss. However, I am inclined to adopt a detective-like approach for the time being, gathering evidence to eventually confront her. What are your thoughts? She is expected to return within an hour from her yoga class, which seems implausible. In all honesty, I am at a loss as to how to proceed. This double betrayal has caused my emotional state to be severely compromised. I feel as though my heart has been shattered into a million pieces, covered in filth. This is how terrible I feel. A few years ago, a friend of mine, whose username I cannot recall at this time, received some excellent advice here. As a result, things eventually worked out well for him. I am hoping for a similar outcome. Therefore, I genuinely appreciate your input. Thanks for the past weeks since D-. I have been attempting to conceal my awareness of the situation for some time. I have undergone testing for sexually transmitted diseases and am attempting to ascertain the duration of the infidelity. I have been able to trace the affair as far back as 8 years, and the longer I investigate, the more distressing the situation becomes. It is difficult to comprehend how my wife, who is my life and soul, my brother, my best friend, and my idol, has betrayed me. My son has withdrawn and barely speaks to anyone. It is evident to everyone that something is amiss with both of us. However, I have managed to maintain a sense of calm for the time being. I have consulted with a lawyer. I have explained the situation in Australia, which has a no-fault system. This could be challenging if the split is not amicable. However, I am hoping for the best emotionally. I am in so much pain that words cannot capture it. I never truly understood the agony of betrayal until now. This double betrayal has shattered my ability to trust anyone ever again. The 2 people I expected to have my back have stabbed me in the back. How does one even begin to deal with that? Our marriage seemed perfect. We rarely fought. When we did, we resolved things through communication. Until D-. On days when our relationship was fulfilling, we were both physically attractive and in good shape. I had always gone to great lengths to provide a comfortable life for my family. Everyone, including myself, believed that we were the ideal couple. I genuinely believed that I had a flawless life and a perfect wife. The world has been reduced to rubble before my eyes. My life, as I had known it, has been obliterated. How can one even begin to process the trauma and begin the healing process? Honestly, I am not coping well regarding my wife. I suspect that she is aware of my distress, but I have managed to convince her that work is the source of my distress. They have met up twice since D-Day. On the second occasion that Day went to be with him, I was on the verge of confronting her. I am also plagued by the fear that some or all of my children might not be biologically mine. In order to gain further insight into the nature of their relationship, I took a day off from work to examine the length of their affair. They have been exchanging emails from private accounts over the years, which made it easier for me to read everything. However, locating the private email address proved to be somewhat challenging. Fortunately, I am somewhat tech-savvy, and I eventually located it. I was able to guess the password. The affair in question commenced when my wife was pregnant with our first child, a full 14 years ago. I recall her driving being particularly intense at the time, and it seems that my brother was aware of this and took advantage of it. The affair began with them crossing a line, with my brother flirting and hinting at wanting closeness on a regular basis. My wife responded by joking about how I wasn't satisfying her enough. Things escalated quickly, and within a month of discussions, they were engaged. My brother and I were involved in a physical affair that later evolved into an emotional affair, which ultimately resulted in the birth of my son. My brother has 5 children from 3 different wives, and they all got along well with my kids. It is distressing to me that they will also suffer as a result of this double betrayal. Some might inquire about my brother's marital history during our affair. During that period, he had 3 children with his first wife, with whom he had the longest relationship. If memory serves me correctly, they were together for 12 years after. He married young and had a child with his second wife, but the marriage did not last long, perhaps around 3 years. His last child was with his third wife, who was quite wild. They married due to a pregnancy, which my brother believed was a form of treatment by her. Unfortunately, that marriage also did not last long, and he married his fourth wife, whom I genuinely cared for like a sister. Sadly, she passed away shortly after their divorce was finalized, which shook my brother up quite a bit. I will not bore you with the details. The discussions were characterized by a certain degree of acrimony, and it would appear that all of my brother's failed marriages were a consequence of his being in love with my wife. He often kept his distance and was emotionally distant from his wives due to the nature of the affairs. It is difficult to comprehend how my wife could deceive me in the manner she did. At least my brother had the decency to divorce his wives. However, I am perplexed as to why my wife did not simply leave me. It seems that she is more selfish and did not want to lose us as a family. Perhaps this is something she needs to figure out on her own during individual counseling. I have the proof I needed. I have made a conscious decision not to read any emails that might reveal the paternity of my children to me. They are all mine, without question. My wife will be back soon, and my plan is to confront her with specific emails that I have printed out. I must admit that I am uncertain how I am going to handle this situation. Fortunately, I am seething with anger and uncertain about my actions. I am contemplating whether it would be a good idea to confront both of them together. The thought crossed my mind to have them both there when I addressed the situation, perhaps getting closure from both simultaneously. What do you think? Some have suggested that I involve my son in this confrontation. I am currently considering the most effective way to approach her. Your input would be greatly appreciated. Update: I am astonished by the brazenness of their actions during their affair. At one point, they engaged in intimate activities while we were all under the same roof. The mental images of all the things they might have done while I was around drive me absolutely insane. I can picture them getting frisky at the dinner table or having a quick rendezvous during our family vacations. How could she do this to me and us? Strangely, I am beginning to feel indifferent towards my brother. I have already developed a certain degree of indifference towards my brother. Indeed, I am prepared to sever ties with him. However, when it comes to my wife, we have a different kind of bond. I am unsure if I am prepared to let her go. After every disturbing mental image, it feels like ammunition for me to make the challenging decision to separate from her. Yet what about our children? I recently discovered that my wife of 6 years had been unfaithful. This is a significant dilemma. I have sent an email to all family members in which I express my deep regret at having to inform you that my brother and his wife have been engaged in my wife and I have been engaged in a long-term affair for over a decade. I recently discovered this affair and it has deeply impacted our household. My wife and I are heading for divorce. There is no way around it. I apologize for being the bearer of unfortunate news during this holiday season. This is the reality we face. I have spoken with my brother and wife expressing my desire to cut ties with both of them, which is more painful than words can describe. I never imagined this could happen, especially from my own family and my wife. However, I guess life throws curveballs. The individual in question has been engaging in a pattern of deceitful behavior, which has left me uncertain about how to respond or how to navigate the situation. I hope that this year's Christmas gathering will not be marred by the discovery of their affair. I am still looking forward to it and cannot wait to see all of you. I also have a question that I would like to address. My business was established before we met, and I purchased everything, including the house and cars. Prior to our marriage, I took the initiative to safeguard my assets, thus negating the necessity for a prenuptial agreement update. The subsequent developments have been marked by a notable intensification. I elected to convey the news to my family directly, via a personal communication, which elicited a spectrum of emotional responses, including profound dismay and profound disappointment in my brother. Furthermore, my mother shed tears, attributing her own shortcomings to the situation. My father and I reassured her that she was not at fault. Meanwhile, my siblings were upset with my brother and wife. To compound matters, it transpired that my brother had made advances towards another brother's wife. She had kept it a secret to avoid causing trouble between the brothers. However, my revelation provided my mother with the opportunity to finally tell her husband. Let us just say that he was furious. He paid my brother a visit and gave him a couple of slaps. Fortunately, my brother's wife and her parents were present to prevent things from escalating further. All of my family members have expressed their desire for my brother and his soon-to-be ex-wife to reconcile. My wife was not invited to our Christmas gathering this year, which seems to indicate that she has been ostracized by the family. Her parents were visibly embarrassed and offered their sincerest apologies on behalf of their daughter. I reassured them that they would always have a place in my heart and that they were welcome in my home at any time. I genuinely care for them. Even her siblings were apologetic. However, it transpired that one of them was aware of the affair. Consequently, I will not be engaging with her much going forward. My parents advised both my brother and wife to take a break from everyone and everything for at least a couple of weeks to allow everyone to enjoy the festive season without any drama. Initially, they were reluctant to acquiesce, but eventually they did so. As a result, they have been remarkably supportive of me. The Christmas gathering is still going ahead. My wife and the brother in question are leaving for Vanuatu in a few days, returning after the new year. We have made arrangements with family members to help each other out with the children while they are away. I will address the divorce after the new year. For the time being, I am content to spend time with my family. I am gratified to report that I am feeling happy despite everything I have been through. My house is already bustling with my children, cousins, some of my siblings and their spouses. We are all having a great time. I acknowledge that I have my moments, but I am thankful that the event occurred at this time of year. The weather is agreeable, the children are contentedly engaged in each other's company and causing a certain degree of disorder, while the adults are exchanging joviality. I am gratified to observe that these conditions have not altered. Might I inquire as to the propriety of my sentiments of compassion for my wife and my brother, the latter of whom I consider to be unscrupulous? I am uncertain as to the rationale behind my feelings. I empathize with this sentiment, yet I am optimistic that they will be able to resolve their differences in Vanuatu and confront their personal challenges independently. In general, I am confident that the situation will ultimately have a positive outcome. Regarding my children, my eldest son has made it clear that he has no desire to maintain contact with his mother. However, my younger children are disappointed that she will not be present for Christmas. Although they are aware of the circumstances surrounding their mother's actions, I am gratified that they continue to hold her in high regard. I would not wish for them to develop an adverse sentiment towards their mother. Regarding my wife and her partner, I will no longer refer to him as my brother. They have departed for Vanuatu, and we maintain minimal contact, primarily in the interests of the children and in relation to my business affairs. My parents established a modest enterprise in a secure trust before I even met my wife. After our marriage, my wife and I ensured that our financial affairs remained entirely separate. We do not have any joint accounts or similar arrangements. I spend my money on what we both have the financial means to pursue our respective desires, and we maintain financial independence. I am, however, in a more advantageous position financially, largely due to the success of my business. Nevertheless, I am primarily responsible for providing for my family. With regard to the divorce, I do not anticipate significant conflict. My wife has indicated that she does not intend to pursue any claims against me. She has no desire to receive anything from me and does not feel entitled to any of my assets. Furthermore, she has no involvement in my business. I am prepared to engage in litigation if she decides otherwise, but she is aware that she is not in a position of power. It would be futile for her to challenge me in an amicable divorce. It would be in the best interest of all parties, particularly the children, to wait until after the new year to discuss how we want to proceed. Until then, I intend to indulge in some delicious holiday feasting to regain some of the weight I lost since discovering the affair. Christmas food always excites me. I must say that my life has taken a turn for the worse just when things were starting to look up. I am to blame for this turn of events. I apologize for going over the top with MIA over the past few months. I took your advice about divorcing my soon-to-be ex-wife. My wife and I attempted to mitigate the situation. We engaged in individual therapy and I focused on self-improvement and the well-being of our children. This has had a positive effect on the children, who have been able to cope with the situation. However, I have been struggling to cope with this situation myself, up until recently. We are now waiting for the 12-month period to elapse. A 1-month separation period will conclude with the finalization of the divorce. Fortunately, I will retain ownership of the house and we have agreed that I will have primary custody of the children to minimize disruption to their lives. She is permitted to visit them at her convenience, given that she is not too distant and is financially stable. Consequently, our lawyers did not. I have been engaging in rigorous physical exercise and have reached the best physical condition of my life. This is the first time since the onset of this situation that I have felt this way. I even participated in a few semi-social events. Thanks to my sister's assistance in facilitating these encounters, I experienced a boost in my self-esteem. I acknowledge that I made a significant error in judgment in my interactions with the individual involved with my soon-to-be former wife. I have chosen to cease referring to him as my brother. He expressed a desire to extricate himself from this situation, and in February, he embarked on a backpacking trip in Asia. Initially planned as a 1-month excursion, it has now been 2 months, and he has not indicated any intention to return. Fast forwarding to last month, my soon-to-be former wife, my ex-wife, visited when the children were away from home, staying with their cousin. I was aware that it was an ill-advised decision to see her when the children were not present, but I allowed her entry, despite my misgivings. We proceeded to consume alcohol, and the situation escalated. In summary, we engaged in a physical relationship that was the closest I have ever experienced. Before you condemn me, I should note that I did not yield easily. She had to exert considerable pressure to achieve this outcome. Despite my initial refusal, she persisted in her advances. I had not consumed sex for several months, and she is quite attractive. I have been remiss in my responsibilities as a therapist, and I have been engaging in secret, non-committal intimacy with her on a regular basis. My therapist has suggested that this is a form of hysterical bonding. I have been remiss in my responsibilities as a therapist, and I have been engaging in secret, non-committal intimacy with her on a regular basis. My therapist has suggested that this is a form of hysterical bonding. I have been remiss in my responsibilities as a therapist, and I have been engaging in secret, non-committal intimacy with her on a regular basis. My therapist has suggested that this is a form of hysterical bonding. I have been remiss in my responsibilities as a therapist, and I have been engaging in secret, non-committal intimacy with her on a regular basis. My therapist has suggested that this is a form of hysterical bonding. I have been remiss in my responsibilities as a therapist, and my wife has revealed that she is pregnant with my child. She has expressed a desire to keep the baby if all goes well. I am unsure of how to proceed, as the closeness we share is profound. Despite this, I am emotionally conflicted about the prospect of her remaining in my life beyond the scope of a co-parent. One thing is certain, I am not taking her back. However, I find myself in a peculiar state of limbo. How should I proceed now that we are expecting another child together? How should I deal with the fact that we are bed buddies and I am unable to resist her? Could this turn into a romantic relationship? She is toxic, but she is like a drug. I am unable to cease contact with this individual. I feel like an idiot. Update: I will be accompanying her to the doctor's appointment on Tuesday. We are currently caught up in the Anzac Day long weekend with our families. As of yet, no one else is aware of the alleged pregnancy. She is absolutely certain that the child is mine, stating that she has not been with anyone else. I have not been with anyone else and I am not the Prince of the USA. Can we determine my paternity from the conception date? Regardless, I am leaning toward believing she is indeed pregnant and that I am the father. This is causing me anxiety, but I would prefer to prepare for the worst-case scenario so that I can find relief if it turns out to be a lie. It is also important to be prepared to cope with the possibility that the DNA of my already born children is not mine. I am not concerned about this, as they are my children regardless of the outcome of a DNA test. I am not considering getting back with her, even if she claims to be pregnant today. This is a significant day for us. We are going to the doctor in a few hours. I will provide an update once we are back. A doctor's appointment is scheduled for a few hours hence. An update will be provided upon our return. This request for guidance is not related to infidelity. The previous weekend was one of the most perplexing and emotionally challenging periods in recent memory. It involved a celebration of Anzac Day with extended family. I recently encountered a distressing situation involving my eldest son. He was engaged in a romantic relationship with his cousin, the eldest daughter of another man from a previous marriage. How should a father respond to such a revelation? Given the circumstances, I was overcome with emotion and inquired about the nature of their relationship. My son attempted to justify his actions by citing the precedent set by Jen's father. The other man's rationale was that if he was permitted to socialize with my mother, then it was acceptable for us to do the same. I was rendered speechless and still find it astonishing that this situation is occurring right before my eyes. It appears that our therapeutic sessions are not yielding the anticipated outcomes, and I am experiencing feelings of inadequacy as a parent. I am compelled to inquire about their activities during the frequency of these sleepovers is a source of concern. If the individuals in question were unrelated, I might be more accepting of the situation. However, given that their cousins are involved, it becomes clear that my son is using our troubled marriage as justification for this unusual arrangement. I am unsure of how to address the matter or how to bring it to an end. It is important to note that no one else is aware of this relationship, and my focus is on the upcoming doctor's appointment. In light of the forthcoming doctor's appointment, I felt compelled to reiterate that I am not the enemy in this situation. I was as devastated by the affair as they were, perhaps even more so. It did, however, succeed in somewhat calming him down. We have not revisited the topic since we agreed to discuss it at a later date. It is perplexing that I did not foresee this developing within my own home, but then again, my wife managed to deceive me. For over a decade, I was in a happier place not too long ago. However, I am now overwhelmed with depression, confusion, and inner turmoil. I am left wondering why all of this is happening to me and what I might have done to deserve it. I want to make it clear that I am absolutely certain I'm the father due to the timeline of conception. I will not delve into that here. There are too many details to be included here, but given the timing, there is no possibility of anyone else being involved during the conception period. Upon learning that I am going to be a father again, I admit that I was not thrilled. What followed was a significant mistake on my part. This woman and I had a major argument, which escalated to me pushing her against a wall. Fortunately, she was not hurt, but I feel I acknowledge that my actions were regrettable. I have never engaged in such conduct before, and I never will. I oppose domestic issues, but it is crucial to understand the circumstances that led to this incident. I will provide a condensed version of the conversation we had after the doctor's visit. On the drive home, I remained silent. I had been thinking about the future. I was not in the mood to discuss it. I needed a nap. She could at least try to show some excitement. This was our child, after all. I was not thrilled about this. I was still trying to process your affair. I would have been more excited if you had decided to terminate the pregnancy. The pregnancy is a result of our inability to bring a child into the world. I am the mother and I am responsible for raising this child. I am not asking you to be a coward, I am asking you to take responsibility for your child. I am not lecturing you about being a coward and taking responsibility when you were involved with another man while married to me. I am asking you to go away. How can you say this, given the recent enjoyable period we have been experiencing? This child is intended to be a fresh start for us. I interrupted her. So you planned this? Of course I did. What is wrong with a wife who regrets her actions trying to start over with her husband? The other man was right. First of all, I am not your husband anymore. If we are to raise this child together, it will only be as co-parents. The parents are not functioning as a husband and wife, so this is how you really see me. You treat me like some piece of meat, and I may have made a mistake, but I don't deserve this. Who are they? Who have you been talking to me? You know that's not what I meant, and it's none of your business. She interrupted me. I don't care what you meant if you want to go. I have decided to end the divorce proceedings. I will ensure that you are financially compensated for your losses. The remainder of the incident is a blur, and I lost control as previously stated. We eventually reconciled. Reading my own words and replaying the conversation in my head has made me realize how toxic this relationship has become and how powerless I feel against her. It was not I have always been this way, and I feel foolish for making matters worse during our reconciliation. I may have inadvertently revealed my online posts without specifying the site. I genuinely hope she does not stumble upon this website and find this thread, as it would cause a major upheaval. As a result of that incident, she has some leverage. If I were to pursue a divorce, I would not speak on behalf of all individuals, but in Australia, domestic issues pertaining to pregnant women are taken seriously. I would find myself in a difficult position if I did not at least attempt to salvage this marriage. Despite my reservations and feelings of pressure, I am considering giving our relationship another chance, or perhaps delaying the divorce until she is in a better frame of mind. I would like to discuss my son, and this is causing me significant distress. I am seeking advice on this matter. The following is a transcript of a conversation I had with my son the other day. Me, so you want to have a chat about? He proceeded to discuss the matter further, prompting me to interject and suggest that we avoid making the situation more awkward than it already was. I informed him that I had long harbored feelings for her and cared about her for as long as I could remember. I then asked him to consider the following question: in what world is it acceptable to have a relationship with one's cousin? I then proceeded to ask him why he considered such a relationship to be so wrong. It is society that labels such relationships as unacceptable. My feelings for my cousin are genuine, and I believe that they are mutual. My mother's affair has made me question the morality of such relationships. I cannot justify my desire to be with my cousin by citing my mother's affair. In some cultures, people marry their cousins and there is no social stigma attached to this practice. Therefore, there is no reason why it should be considered wrong in our society. I am aware that there may be some concerns about how others might react, but I believe that the majority of people at school and in our wider family will be supportive. I am a straight A student, which is true. I do not cause any trouble for you, my parents. I am also happy that I finally have the confidence to express my true feelings. However, you are still very young and are going through a lot right now. Perhaps this is not the right time to get involved with someone, especially since you are feeling vulnerable. He expressed his concern that the relationship might be a means of coping with his own difficulties. He suggested that the relationship might be unintentionally leading his cousin on, and that when he had healed from his own pain, he might end up breaking her heart. My father expressed his concern that I had had these feelings for her for years and that I was now acting on them. The affair has provided me with the courage to act on my feelings. The fact that she feels the same way makes everything seem perfect. I am upset about my mother and the other man, but at least something positive came out of their affair. I love her so much, Dad. I have never felt like this before. She has been helping me cope with everything really well. I have observed that you have been exhibiting a greater degree of happiness than is typical in the context of the circumstances that have been unfolding. I am unsure of how to proceed. I am not comfortable with this situation and believe that it is imperative that we engage in a discussion with all relevant parties. Are you maintaining safe contact with her or him? I am concerned that you may be repeating the same mistake that I made. I was compelled to inform him that I had slapped her as he began to perceive me as questioning his role as a father. I must acknowledge that this was a profoundly disconcerting experience. Subsequently, my son revealed that we both prefer to forego contraceptive measures, but that we are typically cautious. To those who are parents, I would be grateful for advice on how to inform my son about all of this. He is a bright child and has rarely caused me any trouble during his teenage years, except for this. When he was younger, he was somewhat of a handful. I feel powerless once again as a father. This entire situation is just crazy. I can understand why anyone might think my life is unreal. At times, I even question my own beliefs. I found the Ryan Gosling reference amusing, SJS. I am currently experiencing depression and could benefit from a sense of humor. The most challenging aspect of this situation is Reddit. If I were an outsider, I would likely be providing the same advice. The counsel that you are proffering is, I surmise, predicated on the assumption that my direct involvement in this situation renders it more impactful, given my emotional investment and the significant stakes involved. However, it is indicative of the extent to which I am emotionally vulnerable and powerless, and my failure to fulfill the roles of husband and father is the most painful realization I have experienced, and it is causing me considerable distress.